Startup Unscripted. The questions you have with the truths you need to hear.
Help doctors get into practice the way they want to get into practice. Hashtag truth. That's why we put it out there. What we want to do is we want to bring truth to the startup game.
And now your host, Michael Dencio.
Okay, guys, welcome to another episode of Startup. I'm super excited to introduce Josh Arnone. This guy is a legend in the industry as it pertains to IT, information technology. He works for a little company called Darkhorse Tech, not so little. They help 1,000 dentists across the country. That's how big their portfolio. So needless to say that these guys understand the whole IT tech situation that you startups are going to face getting into a practice from scratch. So that's the topic today. Let's get into it. Josh, welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you. Great to be here. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate the kind words.
Heck yeah, man. Heck yeah. No, it's been fun. We've shared some clients in the past here, and it's been great experiences. And it's just interesting because as a startup coach, I get lots of questions, right, from my clients, and it's all over the place. And to be honest with you, I don't have all the answers. I'm not the IT guy. I know a little bit about connecting a printer with a computer and getting the right drivers. I know a little bit about making sure that the phone has the app and you can pick it up before we've even started. Like, there's strategy things that are really important to me. But as far as like the mechanicals, no, I got nothing. And so this is very dark for me. And so that's why experts like you are so important to the process. So Josh, tell me a little bit about your company. I tried to do the best I could there to intro you, but quickly tell me, Darkhorse, what are you guys all about?
Yep. Our main in the plane is being a dental MSP. So we're supporting private practices, micro, mini, and DSOs in their IT needs on a month-to-month basis, and just taking care of all the problems that come up, taking care of compliance factors, just cybersecurity in general. And as another part of our business is helping startups build out their offices, choose their software stacks. And we're doing about 100 of those a year. So about 2 a week that we're installing. So it's a big part of things. And being in from the ground level, it's just a really exciting time. We love working with startups. It's
fun.
It's always fun for everyone.
Yeah, it is. And nationwide. I mean,
nationwide.
I mean, I know that I, as a dental startup that works, coach that works with folks all over the country, I always get the local guy, and there absolutely are local folks in every market. But it's interesting how you guys are very competitive nationwide, and competing against those local folks. I don't always know what I'm getting with a local, and there might be some amazing local firms out there. But it's really easy for me to refer you guys in because I know that dental and you're competitive, flying all over the country and doing these installs. So from a price perspective, I know it works. But with that being said, this conversation could go in all kinds of directions. I'm going to jump right into it. We'll lose our audience if we don't. And so my big question to you today, and let's see where else this goes, but oh my gosh, I am sick of the cloud software conversation. And trust me, like, I'm all about cloud technology. We use Google Docs, and I've got team members all over the country, and we're uploading, and that's all super cool. But for dentistry, I'm not entirely sold on the whole cloud situation. And for folks that work with me, they know that I'm very cost conscientious when it comes to budgeting. So if there was a way to cut a really expensive server out of the project, I'll be the first one to say, hell yeah. But I am not sold on cloud, and there's a lot of reasons for it. In my mind, I'd like to hear your take, and maybe you're a big cloud guy. I don't know what we're getting into. Let's just have that conversation. Cloud versus server. Let's go with this.
Yeah, this is probably the most common conversation that I have regarding startups.
Yes.
And it doesn't even have to be just with clients one-on-one, but just as moving forward, it's going to be more and more prevalent. You're going to see more and more things going cloud. That's just where the development dollars are going from these platforms that are the most popular in the industry. Okay.
Yeah.
So no one's going to be investing heavily in just the legacy hardware and locally based softwares. So we're ready for the cloud. We take care of a ton of people who are utilizing it. Fully embrace it. We are not scared of this. It is going to be something that we know that we can service. And the sticky point around it, usually when it comes to dental, is imaging. And what am I going to do there? If you have to leave your imaging locally based, so that needs to be a locally harnessed software system, that's going to make things not as efficient as if you had a cloud-based imaging platform as well. Because if you're going to go cloud, I almost see that as like a critical piece of things, that you have to let your imaging be cloud as well.
Okay,
So
isn't that kind of the point? That's kind of the point of this conversation, is because everything's going cloud. You just said it. All the dollars are going there. Everybody's talking about it. But what you just said with imaging, multiply that by dental softwares that are trying to connect, Weave, Swell, Dental Intel, Practice by Numbers, imaging. All of these things aren't compatible really yet. And in my experience here, I get clients, oh, I really love the Ascend, and I really love the Care Stack, and I really love the Oryx I heard the other day, and I like Fuse and this and that. It's like, okay, guys, you have to remember, and Josh, back me up on this. You have to remember that there are some really fantastic programs out there that help you do what you need to do every single day from a system perspective. It might be collecting money. It might be auto confirmations. It might be scheduling online. It might be all these really cool systems that were all built for a server-based technology, Dentrix, Eaglesoft, Open Dental. And now we've got Fuse and CareSec and all this, and none of that integrates. And so, it's a mess. It's a fucking mess. Sorry for my language. So this is why I'm not on cloud yet, because okay. So let's talk about, how do you handle that?
Yep, it really is. We don't steer our clients in any kind of directions. We work with everybody, and it doesn't matter if they want to use Dentrix Ascend or Dentrix locally. We really want to find out what is going to make your practice successful. And if it's like, hey, I have to use a DEXIS imaging platform because I think that's going to let me provide better treatment plans, it's going to be more accurate, and it's just going to let my office be more productive. Well, then we say you shouldn't be cloud-based at this point.
You can't be cloud. Yeah. Right.
Now if it's and now if it's someone who's like, hey, I just came for an office and we're using Oryx there, I love it, I love their imaging module, then we would say you could be fully cloud, and we have no worries about that whatsoever.
So your job is to really connect the dots and make sure everything's working. It's interesting though, Josh, because every startup client that we work with has a different preference. They came from an office and they really love this system, but maybe they didn't know that this system existed, but at their office, they love it. And it's the system that they know, let's go with it. A lot of their decision-making process about like what systems and add-ons that they need and are totally like based on where they came from, or maybe some Facebook forum. And I think that's where they get into trouble, because they haven't really experienced it. They're not looking at the demos. They're so exhausted at the point that they are talking to you in the process. I mean, at this point, folks, business plan, budgeting, banking, construction, equipment, marketing, a lot of these decisions were made, and you're like just wiped out. It's been like almost 9 months of just decision making in your face. And then these last little 60-day conversations before open need to be made. And it like raises a lot of concern. And then they, like, my clients just kind of get wiped out. So they just go with what's easy. So I kind of trust that you guys are going to walk them through like all of the possibilities. I heard you say not steer, but in a lot of cases, I think my clients do need some direction on
Mhm.
what's the best scenario for them.
Yeah, and I think that's a point of clarification too. If a client comes to us and said, "Hey, I'm using EagleSoft, I'm using Schick sensors, I'm going to have a 2D panoramic machine,"
Mm-hmm.
to me, I say, "Great, let's do that."
Mm-hmm.
If a client comes to me and says, "Well, I want to do X, Y, and Z. What do you think the platform I should look at is?"
Mm-hmm.
And from an ease of integration standpoint and from an ease of use standpoint and cost value perspective,
Mm-hmm.
most of the time that's leading to an open dental. If you haven't seen it, please go do it.
Yeah.
And if you need to set that up, just go for it, because we know that's going to be the most flexible platform to integrate with everything you'd need.
I mean,
doesn't matter imaging, doesn't matter what kind of other third-party integrations you'd want.
Yeah,
it's going to work.
Their name is Open Dental,
exactly,
for a reason. Yeah. And it might not be the sexiest, but it definitely makes your life easy once you open your practice. And the thing, folks, to remember is you're not going to know everything when you're making these decisions to Josh. And so you're going to be like, well, shit, I wish I would have known this setting this whole system up, because now I can't have whatever dental intel or whatever. Like it's frustrating. So what you don't know today can haunt you later. So to me, I want to stay as open, no pun intended, as possible, so that so I have more options. But yeah, so with that being said, if someone does go server, which is kind of the way I quote unquote push my clients for the reason of just having flexibility in the future for a lot of different reasons. And by the way, these cloud softwares, I mean, they're expensive over time. You start adding in all of the different things. That's how they got you, right? Isn't that the way the models are kind of shifting to?
Yeah, just subscription based, and it's kind of universal and going to be universal. Having that server based program, there's costs associated with that too. If you're going to be using a Dentrix, well, you have to have a Dentrix support plan too. That's going to be an ongoing cost, and those aren't going to be static over time. But yes, it is going to be an expense that is going to be a real thing. Obviously, you don't have that hardware, and this is coming from a person who, if you buy a server, it's better for me. We do sell hardware and computers and servers, so. I'm not against servers in any regard, but trying to get ready for that future transition where we know it's going to go. I always get the question, if I get a server now, well, can I just go cloud-based later? The answer is yes. You could definitely do that. So you would have that flexibility,
but
which I understand.
Then you're flushing a server cost a little bit down the toilet, but
yes.
But I guess my thought is if you have multiple practices, I could totally see why cloud makes a ton of sense, right?
Oh yeah, or a lot of remote employees. A lot of people like that. These are all factors that influence the conversation we're going to have around your IT choices.
But you led into, like, you do a lot of private practice and a lot of DSO. So that to me is the DSO conversation. It's like there's a solution for this huge empire, third-party billing. I've got multiple offices. Let's just manage this thing all on cloud. That makes a ton of sense to me. But when you're a startup, you have 0 patients, 0 sales. You're getting up off the ground. I understand that your future vision is 3, 4, 5, 10 practices. Great. But you need 1 to be successful before you can have 2. So, let's say that you need to be in your startup for 6, 7 years before you could even entertain the idea of a second office, unless you just dominate. The cost of the server over 6 years and then flipping over to cloud later, it's probably not so bad.
Yeah, that's a general lifetime of a server is right around that year mark too. 5 to 7 years. So you'd be going through the lifetime of that server. But having a server also does increase costs in other ways.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Yeah.
If you have that local server in your office, it's going to need to be backed up. Just for HIPAA compliance, you're going to need to have backup services both locally and remotely in the cloud, which is an expense. And if you're cloud-based and you're using cloud imaging, you never have to worry about backups again.
I thought you did have to back up some things if you're cloud locally.
Some things, but it's much less intensive, much less costly to do that with a cloud-based system.
I see.
So there are expenses associated with that server that you don't have in the cloud. So those things still tend to balance out that on a monthly basis, a cloud program would be more expensive, but it's not as cut and dry as there's, nothing ongoing with the server and then all ongoing with the cloud. There is ongoing things that would need to happen with the server as well that do add to those costs.
So in general, over time, would you say they're probably equal no matter which decision you go over time? Because the cloud, you got to remember, two-way texting, that's a must in modern dentistry.
Oh yeah.
Scheduling online, that's a must. Forms online, that's a must. I mean, COVID changed everything. So if you have all of these extra bells and whistles that the cloud services are offering, you're getting into some of those higher expenses, subscription based, as you called it. So that's more expensive than server, but server investment initially is higher. Am I explaining that right?
Yes. So you're explaining exactly right. And depending on the software stack you're using, like let's say you bought a server, you're using Open Dental, and you're traditionally running that office as usually happens. But then you tag on using Flex and FlexBooks, and let's say you're using Weave, and then you have your software cost has just gone up, 3 or 4-fold.
Yeah. Okay.
What would that have cost with something that has a lot of those solutions built in? If you're using a Curve Hero, let's say, what is that going to be per month versus what your software stack is? Plus you have one platform, so there's pros and cons. And if you're running
such a tough decision,
if you're running a slim shop, that you don't have to have those third party, but to your point, now you kind of do. You need to have your paperless forms and texting, and these services are a expectation and a must. So
in my opinion,
weighing those costs out, and honestly, if someone asked me, hey, how much does Fuse cost a month? I don't know. I'm not sure how much it costs a month. And it's for you to find out.
And by the way, over time, there's going to be more and more and more and more and more. There's going to be like 100 options on the cloud eventually.
Oh yeah.
And there's like 3 options today, in my opinion, that are good. And we both know what those 3 options are: Dentrix, Eaglesoft, Open Dental. It's going to change everything. It's going to be super interesting. But all right, let's pivot. I feel like we exhausted that one a little bit. We only have so much time, but thank you for breaking that down. It's a very complex conversation. I don't think the Facebook forums, folks, or even just this podcast today is going to give you the answer that you're looking for. Bottom line, it's very specific to your needs. You have to understand what you're trying to do with your patient experience. You have to understand the biggest picture possible for the future and today. And then you got to weigh all those costs. But I just get startups clients that get so myopic about cost, and they think that cloud's the option. And it's funny because that's not a simple answer from a cost perspective. So that's the flip. That's the next question. Okay, so costs have gone up, man, in the IT world, and it's not because of maybe it's your labor. Everybody's labor is more expensive, but that's probably a small factor. What the hell is going on? Like the quotes 2 years ago for a startup straight out of the woodwork to today, it's a solid $5,000, maybe even $8,000 more a total project, computer, the whole gamut. What's going on? Why?
I think that there's a couple things that impact that. Number one, there is soft costs like travel that right now are just so high.
Yeah.
And having that specialized labor that we have to fly in, which we have traveling techs that travel the country every week of the year. And God bless the guys, they just bust their backs every day.
But you guys are competitive. You guys are competitive with local versus not. So I don't even
those costs still add up.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's say a 20% increase in travel costs. Hotels are really expensive right now too. And we're spending a full week that we're going to be at a startup just building out the practice. Other things that I think are driving up costs are things like an expectation of entertainment throughout the office. Now, if I have an ortho client come to us and just say, hey, I'm not doing any TVs. I have workstations that are going to be a cart side, chair side, and we have to do very little entertainment. That's going to be a really effective use of dollars. They're going to have all the technology they need, but they don't have the bells and whistles of entertainment that are kind of expected now, to where I want a TV here, I want a TV, I want a TV on the ceiling, I want a TV at the toe of the patient. I want to be able to have all these connected to my computer, so I could pull up imaging on the toe and on the ceiling. I want to show, let's say, one movie simultaneously out throughout the whole office. These are things that increase costs.
Yeah. Okay,
and
so the entertainment
they're coming
factor.
more and more expected.
Okay. I think they're expected, but I don't think they're necessary for startup folks. I think you need to have some entertainment, but folks, you're not going to compete with the corporate groups that have more money than God. And frankly, your patient experience is going to be so much better than a corporate. So you have to weigh that. I mean, in a world where, when we talk about this, folks, where lending is constant being stretched, construction dollars are out of control, equipment everything is going up. And that's why I'm asking Josh, like, why his costs are going up. It's a perfect example.
Yeah.
But just like, you have to cut some places. And so that's really good. So entertainment. So would you say that the average startup, well, give us like the perfect world, and then give us if you had a tight budget, what would you slim down to but still offer some entertainment? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What's the middle ground?
I think that a good middle ground is that if you're a startup, you're outfitting 2 or 3 ops to begin with, that you do one front desk station, you have your imaging computer, your doctor's office, your 2 or 3 treatment rooms. You do 1 television in each of those treatment rooms, just at the toe of the patient. But it's important to prepare for the future. You want flexibility. So when you're wiring out your office, you have all the infrastructure there where if you want to add those TVs down the road,
boom,
wait till you have some cash flow, wait till you have a good vision of how you want to implement that. And then you can pull the trigger down the road.
Yeah. So
that's a very competitive cost-wise when it comes to a startup. Your technology stack is not going to be a huge cost burden. And if you said, I want to do my consult room right from the beginning, I want another station and sterilization for ordering, those things are going to multiply and add up really quickly.
So cut sterilization desktop. You don't need it. Go to the op that you're not using. You have 3 ops. You probably only need 1 op in the first, or 2 ops in the first year, technically. So you have another op of a workshop. So to your point, 6 desktops is kind of what I heard. I always say somewhere between 5 to 7.
Yes, absolutely.
Is where I want my guys and gals to be. I get these quotes. It's like 9. It's like, bro, how many computers do you need? And those, right out of the gate, what are you doing?
Those are things that, like, and I'm not against implementing these things, but budgets are a reality.
That's right.
Having a television that's a huddle station in your break room for going, having the schedule up and doing educational things. I get how useful that is, and we implement them all the time, but that's a soft cost that I think that you can cut from the beginning and just say, this is going to happen later. I've got the bones there to do it, but why don't I wait a couple months, have some cash flow, and if I really need it, I could get that within a couple of weeks and it'll be done.
Couple of weeks. Did you hear that, folks? Like, literally, you could call Josh and say, I need another op. I need a TV. I need a desktop. I need this, but boom, Josh puts it in. It's done. Like, why put on that extra expense when you don't need to? The name of the game, folks, ex-banker talking, is to break even as fast as possible. So if you're going crazy on your expenses with your wants and versus needs, you're not going to break even until maybe 18 months. So then you're not going to be able to quit your associate position as soon as you want. And that's what you really want to do. My startups break even in 4 to 5 months because we are lean and mean. And by the way, some of that is the subscription stuff. Everybody brings me the subscription. And I'm all about efficiency and streamlining the follow-ups and the confirmations and this, that, and the other. I'm all about that. That's super sexy and fun. But your front office person and your dental assistant are literally going to be sitting on their hands waiting for patients to come. What are they doing all day? Have them confirm, have them call. So, and by the way, a personal touch is always better than a text message. Always,
Mhm.
100% of the time. All right, I'm getting into stuff. So I love that. What to cut? Some TVs. Don't go crazy with the desktops. What about sound? This is always a conversation. Sound, like awesome music, versus, or not versus, sound and security. Those are two things that are really important. You're based out of New York. I'm assuming if I had downtown New York, I'd want security cameras everywhere. You get what I'm saying. Security, sound, those are two places that people cut if they have to. Walk us through the dangers of that, or is that a good
Mhm.
idea?
I think that sound has evolved to a point where there's some just really, really value-driven solutions out there that can make your life easier rather than having your traditional, I have a volume control knob on the wall. It turns my music up and down in the spaces where I want it to.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to take, no matter if you have 10 speakers throughout the office or three,
Mm-hmm.
it's got a minimum requirement of the stuff that you need. You're going to need a receiver no matter what, an amplifier no matter what. You're going to need volume controllers. These things are a minimum cost, and they all have to be wired, which is going to be a cost as well in your pre-wiring phase, which is just going to add to the overall number. Where there's really great options out there that you can get with smart speakers that might not look that sexy, but they're super flexible.
Mm-hmm.
They are just controlled through your desktop or your phone.
Mm-hmm.
They have great sound quality,
Mm-hmm.
but you could just add or subtract them and move them around the way you want to. As long as you have the proper infrastructure, you could have a great experience.
Yeah.
And it's a fraction of the cost for a full office.
And you could technically put, like, walk me through like short term, long term. If someone wanted to go there eventually, is there a way to set up the behind the scenes for some of this wiring, or the empty hubs or whatever? Like, is there a way to get there eventually if you went Sonos or something, and then later on wanted to wire in? How do you walk people through that?
For sure. All that could be done in the pre-wiring phase. We could get prepared for a hardwired sound system later on down the road.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully you have drop ceilings in your space as a startup for that flexibility, where that wiring can kind of just be tucked away and waiting to be implemented down the road. Everything is there to where you just need some hardware to implement it later on. This happens a lot with security cameras.
Yeah.
Where we'll put the necessary wiring in place with a little bit of flexibility, a little extra length on wires to make sure that we can put that camera just where you want it.
Mm-hmm.
So that way you're not running into that initial cost of, let's say it's $1,000 to get a security camera system with 3 or 4 cameras.
Yeah.
You could hold off on that $1,000, but later on, let's say you had a great month and you want some cameras, you can pull that trigger, and those cameras can be implemented at that time pretty easily, just like we talked about the TVs.
Yeah.
So those are two things that you could really prepare for. It's just going to be getting those bones of your system ready, which it should be done the right way from the beginning.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's going to be part of just a proper pre-planning of incur a little bit of expense during that wiring phase to give you maximum flexibility later on.
And I think that's the danger of your industry for my clients, is that you could get a slick salesperson to just talk you into all this stuff, and pretty soon you're spending, frankly, $35,000, and it, it's all warranted stuff. Like, it's all stuff that you could be talked into, but with proper planning with Josh and his team, you can get in at a much lower price point and prepare for the future when you have cash flow. And folks, it's a startup. You have zero patients, zero sales. Why are you building a Taj Mahal as if you have $1 million practice? And everybody wants to have $1 million practice, but the reality is, if it was that easy to hit $1 million, don't you think everybody would be doing it? And trust me, they're not. And so there's winners and losers in this life, and absolutely there's losers, and just these little practice hacks, I call, that Josh is giving you here. Take that route, but plan for the future. Josh, who works for a credible company, does a great job. can prepare you for the future so that you don't have to go crazy on your budget on the initial, but plan for the future. Okay, last topic. I'm actually running out of time, but we're having a great conversation. And honestly, this could be an hour conversation because of the emails and the calls and the texts and the questions from my clients about all this stuff. And half the time I don't have the answer. But the next question I kind of want to take us to is maintenance. So let's go there. I think maintenance is what you really want, Josh. Let's be honest, right? You want that client on a maintenance program. Why does Josh want a maintenance program? Because it's residual for him. It's a nice little business to manage, and if the install's right, it's fairly easy. I'm just going to be super transparent about it, right? That's his business, but it's essential that you have someone on retainer in case an op goes down. So you have to do it. And there's different pricing models out there. We don't have to get into cost, but like, what are some things to be aware of about maintenance? Educate us on maintenance. This is like Geek Squad on retainer. The computer's not working, Josh. Get me up and running. I have patience all day today. Go, Josh.
Yep. This is like I had mentioned in the beginning, it's our made in the plane. This is how we have a business. It is monthly support. It's a big need, obviously a growing need. And it's something that's just more and more top of mind every day that you see in the news, ransomware attacks that before I got into the industry, I didn't think were a real thing. But we get, probably a call a week of a client that is not ours saying they were attacked by ransomware. What can you do to help me? And it's always a really difficult conversation.
Crazy.
So that's just the cybersecurity part of it. But following along, when you're dealing with technology needs for HIPAA compliance, obviously those things need to be taken care of. And they can be automated to some extent with proper management that always comes along with that. That is, and we have plans that just outline that, hey, we're going to do the minimum and it's going to be really cost effective for you. But if you need help fixing things, it's just going to be a per 15-minute kind of thing. And if you need that help, because we'll get clients say, oh, you know what, my dad handles my IT in the office. Well, we only work with dentists and every one of our technicians are dental specialists.
So they know all these softwares. They know all the shit. They know how everything plugs in. That I'm just going to say it. Your brother doesn't. I promise.
Exactly. And it could save hours of downtime, which for a dental office, that's a lot of revenue. So having that much experience and limiting downtime is something that we really pride ourselves in. But I think a big misconception out there is, hey, I went cloud, your favorite topic. And I went cloud. I don't really need IT anymore, do I? Well, actually, yes, you still do. The only thing that you really are not needing as much are those backups for your server that are typically needed 100% of the time. So if you go cloud, don't think that I don't need anything now because I'm cloud-based. I have a support plan with Dentrix Ascend. I should be fine. I don't need it. That is not true.
That's just Dentrix. That's not everything else that you guys handle. Give us a rundown real quick of what you handle, like phones.
Yeah, typically fixing voice over internet phones, sensor issues, CBCT and panoramics, intraoral cameras, things like iteros, doing all the networking. So that's all your switching and patch panels, your servers, your PCs, sound, security cameras, your scanners, your printers, your signature pads, credit card readers. These are all things that are day to day.
So Dentrix is one of those things. He just listed 15-ish.
And we become your vendor managers at that point too. So your front desk isn't scrambling saying, how do I get in touch with Mango Voice? Our phones are down and I can't call. What do I do? What's the number? You just call us. We manage all your vendors. You don't ever have to sit on hold at Dentrix again. You don't have to find out who the point of contact is at so and so. It's just call Darkhorse. They'll be on it.
If only you could sit on the phone for Delta Dental and get a fax back quick. Everybody understands that works at the front desk. So
yes.
So Perfect. So what's the strategy around cost? What's a normal thing people should think of? I've seen people do it by desktop. I've seen people do it by other things. What's the philosophy? And we'll end it on this particular conversation.
Yeah. So for startups in particular, since we're, gathered around this subject here, we just try to make it really easy and say it's going to be a flat, predictable fee every month. And this is what it's going to be, a very good deal. It's going to be very value driven, but it's going to be that way for your first 12 months. Yeah. So you have, a predictable cash flow, and that hopefully by the end of that 12 months, you're ready to grow. Your business is doing well. We've been supporting everything that we need to. And we try to outline very transparently, this is what's included, which is going to cover the vast majority of everything you need. Could there be outside costs? Yes. If you call me and you need another front desk computer, that's not included, obviously. And then the rare instance where we need someone that would be on site in your office, that would be something that's just an extra cost, but it is not something that you have to budget for month to month.
Yeah.
So and if we try to just be reasonable people.
And if the install is done effective, then you're going to have less issues later on too. So there's probably the install and support conversation, which if you didn't do the install and did the service plan, that's going to be probably an interesting conversation, or vice versa. But that's really helpful. So folks, I think I say this a lot on the program. You want to work with people that understand what you're getting into and have created a program around your success. And I say that because Josh just said he gives you a maintenance plan for the first year that's heavily discounted because he appreciates that you're a startup and that you're trying to break even. You have to align yourself with the right partners that understand what you're going through and not just selling you what they want. That's a super cool thing. And I'm going to tell you right now, like, everybody deserves the full price that works with startups. I say that nicely. You guys need so much help. And in a lot of ways, we should be charging double. Whatever the prices are, we should be charging you guys double because it's 3 times the calls, 3 times the energy, if a dental office that's been going for 10, 15, 20 years, they got it. You don't have to have the same conversations. They already have a system. You just kind of need to fix it. Josh, it's way less time, right? Way less time. Startup, it's like you guys know nothing, and that's okay. We love you. It's a passion of ours. And it's I love it. I love startups because it's just that's my passion. But I want you all to know that when someone gives you a break like that, that means something. That's not a sales pitch. It means something. He should probably charge double. Literally, because they're going to have double the calls throughout the day because you're not sure how things work, where an existing practice has been existing for a long time. So understand that, folks, because I feel like sometimes my startups just feel like they're spending so much money. Everything's just whirling around them, and they get a little resentful at the vendors out there that are helping them. Oh, I'm paying him so much money. What the heck? I promise you, you're a lot more demanding than the average client. I want you all to understand that. And so just treat your vendors really respectfully. Sidebar without Josh here, just understand that it's a love language for us, that we love you guys and we want to support you. So that's really cool program that you're giving, that 12-month program. Any last minute words or plugs or things that you want folks to check out? Guys, as always, in the show notes, we're going to give you Josh's contact information. There's going to be a website down there. If he wants to offer up a white page or a discount or some promotion, it's going to be down below. But anything else, Josh, that you would like to bring to my audience?
We just try to cater to what your specific needs are. Not going to, like I said, not pushing anybody in any directions. And if I could offer just a piece of advice for anybody, no matter if you're working with a vendor like myself, one of our competitors that are just, quality, reputable businesses, don't take it on yourself to try to procure your own hardware. You're going to pay for it later on, and it's not coming from a bad place. There's just so many intricacies to it. So, don't just look at a quote and say, hey, I found this for $100 cheaper on Amazon. I could save myself easy $1,000, but then you find out when you go to install things that, oh man, this does not have the proper operating system. I need Windows Pro. This came with home. And then it just totally scuttles you. And then you wind up paying more every time.
That's like we should have led with that, Josh, that if people get through this whole episode, that's the nugget of the show. I get that a lot. Before I close this down, to add a little bit of credibility to that, because you're not a greaseball sales guy, to add some credibility to that. If there was one thing that a client could buy and handle on its own that wouldn't burn them, what would that one thing be?
I think there's two things: all your televisions, and if you like the aesthetic of a monitor, your computer monitors that are really what people see.
Okay.
You say go for it.
Go for it.
Just let us know what it is so we could properly plan.
That. See, guys, that's what I mean. Like, he gave you a golden nugget. Don't go crazy and do all your hardware. But if you were going to and wanted to save the money, it's not going to save you that much. But if you were to do it, those were the two things. So he gave us two. We got a little bonus. Let's shut it down with that, Josh. It was a pleasure, my friend. Darkhorse Tech, nationwide, great guys, understand dental clearly, and have a nice program for startups that ease you into that maintenance plan to help you break even quicker. Josh, thanks so much for being on the show, brother. We'll cherish this one and get it out to the community.
Of course, really enjoyed doing this, and thank you for having us on. And looking forward to speaking in the future.
Right on, brother. All right. With that being said, let's shut this down. Thank you, guys. Talk to you soon.